Please be upstanding for the worshipful Mayor of South Ribble, Paul Walton-Hardman, High Sheriff of Lancashire, James Carter, accompanied by the Chief Executive of the Mayor's Chapel.
Very good evening, everyone. Please do have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests, councillors, a very good evening, and it is my privilege as Mayor of South Ribble to welcome you all here today for the official opening of our brand new council chamber. This is a moment of pride not just for the council but for the whole of our community, because this chamber has been designed, built and furnished with the people of South Ribble at its heart by the people of South Ribble. I'm especially honoured to welcome Mr James Carter, the High Sheriff of Lancashire, and his wife Mrs Annabel Carter. It's a true privilege to have you both with us on this historic occasion. I also extend a warm welcome to our Member of Parliament, Mr Paul Foster, our Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, Father Paul Robinson, my chaplain, and all our civic guests, including our Freemen of the Borough and Aldermen, and representatives of the parish councils, our youth council, and many friends of the borough. This new chamber is the result of dedication, vision and craftsmanship, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the people who have made it possible. First, the Wade Group, represented here today by Chris Worswick, Ellie Brown and Sheila Yeo, with apologies from John Wade. Their expertise has been instrumental in shaping this project. Second, VPAV, who have ensured that this chamber is not only beautiful but equipped with the technology we need to serve our residents effectively. Third, and most especially, A&L Furnishings of Farrington, represented today by Ian McManus and Matt Barlow. The chamber furniture they have crafted is exceptional, which is a true testament to the local talent, skill and pride within our borough. Though unable to join us this evening, their apprentice Lee Munt has gifted us something very special indeed, a ceremonial gavel crafted from the English oak grown in our own Worden Park. This is more than just a piece of woodwork. It will be a symbol of continuity, rooted in our heritage, and it will serve as a reminder of the talent we are nurturing here in South Ribble. I must also recognise the guidance and thanks to Councillor Jackie Alty, who ensured that accessibility and inclusivity were embedded into the design of this chamber. This is a place for everyone, for councillors, for residents, and for our youth council members who are here with us this evening. It's vital that this chamber belongs to the whole community and that future generations can see themselves reflected in this space. Finally, I would like to thank our major projects manager and the council's senior management team who have worked tirelessly to bring this vision to life. Colleagues, this chamber is more than just a room. It is the democratic heart of South Ribble, a place where decisions are made that shape the lives of our residents, a place where voices are heard, and a place where we work together for the common good of our community. Tonight marks not just the opening of a room, but the start of a new chapter for this council and our community. Hi Sheriff, ladies and gentlemen councillors, thank you once again for being here. It's now my pleasure to invite my chaplain, Father Paul Robinson, to lead us in prayer as we dedicate this chamber to its important purpose.
Posh, isn't it? Very posh. But actually, I was thinking about this. This council chamber is more than just the desk you're sat on. It's more than just the microphones. It's more than just the chairs. It's more than just the technology which is going to work all the time for you. It's a place where the people of South Ribble are served. From a Christian perspective, it reminds us that wisdom, fairness and compassion are gifts given for the good of all. So may this chamber be a space where every voice is valued, where decisions are shaped by respect, and where even the hardest debates are guided by kindness. And may it always remind us that our shared work, sometimes serious, sometimes even joyful, is to build South Ribble about a South Ribble that truly welcomes everyone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bless the doors, first of all, with some holy oil. And we do this as a sign and a symbol of God's protection upon this place and upon you. So, God of justice, your blessing on this hallway. As we anoint them, may all who enter these doors seek wisdom, fairness, and compassion. Protect this threshold with your peace, so that all who gather within it may work faithfully for the good of South Ribble and all its people. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Almighty God, we dedicate this council chamber of South Ribble to your service and the service of our community. Bless all who meet here, that their words may be marked by respect, their decisions by justice, and their work by integrity. May this place always be a house of wisdom, where the needs of the people are heard and the common good is served. And this we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father Paul. I'm now going to invite Ian McManus from A&L Furnishings to present a new gavel that the apprentice has crafted to mark this occasion. There you go. I'd now invite the leader of the council to say a few words.
Automatically. It's all new. It's my pleasure to speak on behalf of the elected members, and I want to thank the Mayor for saying most of the things that I was going to say, which means my speech can be rather shorter. Hi, Sheriff, Mr Mayor, Freeman and Aldermen of the Council, members and officers of Council, Carter, members of the Youth Council, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's everybody. My absolute pleasure to speak on behalf of the members at this auspicious event. In doing so, I want to add my thanks to everybody who's made this happen. I particularly want to recognise the leadership of former leaders of the Council, Paul Foster, now MP, and Councillor Jackie Alty, who've led on this project in the past. And I want to thank them for their vision and tenacity in bringing this whole project to fruition. We were particularly thrilled to be able to award the contract for this wonderful carpentry, you see, to a local firm based here in South Ribble, and even more pleased that the contract gave a young apprentice the chance to work, to build on his skills and his craft, and to learn valuable lessons for the future. It's a fabulous outcome and says much about this council's ambition and forward thinking. As someone who spent a number of years looking at South Ribble's finances, I'm particularly pleased to be able to let everybody know this was delivered on budget and on time. It's not very often I get the chance to stand up and say that, so I'm going to revel in that. But it's a wonderful outcome all round, and I look forward to having many an interesting council meeting that we can all enjoy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. I'd now be delighted to introduce the High Sheriff once again to say a few words.
Mayor, for those who don't know me, and I think a few do, I'm very local to here, in Chorley, I'm afraid, but very, very, very close, having lived there for 31 years in Exton. And I'm very, very, very proud to have been appointed His Majesty's High Sheriff for Lancashire. Thank you for inviting me here today. I think it's a real privilege and honour to be present when you open your, what you might call a modern manifestation of a council chamber. I was informed, I was quite well briefed by a certain gentleman on the top table here about what you used to do previously. I understand that you sort of You had dismantleable desks that were brought in, that the IT was set up, and then you dismantled it afterwards. And to repeat the line, which is stolen already by the chaplain, IT that's definitely going to work every single time you come in, because I've absolutely had Chris's definite assurance that that's going to be the same. It's going to be seamless, apparently. Now, my office is traditionally not political in any way. I'm not supposed to stray into those areas. But I'm just going to tiptoe to the sort of far reaches of the political arena, just to say how passionate I am about local democracy, local communities, local engagement, that it's a chance for individuals to engage and feel part of the machinery and mechanism of local government. In fact, I had a fantastic example today. I try to go running. I'm getting a bit old for running, but I'm not prepared to accept it's jogging yet. Around the sort of the local lanes, and I go down past Millennium Green in Chorley, if you know it, and then I end up in Ransnap Wood. And only on Monday when I did my circuit, I ran across the bridge and I thought, some of these planks are starting to rather sort of spongy and won't be long before some of them need replacing. And I thought, really, I ought to make the effort and notify the parish council that it probably needs something to be done. So I haven't got round to it. I've been too busy this week. So I go out today, and as I come to the bridge, all the planks have been renewed. So they're so well connected as local government in our particular area, they actually know what I'm thinking and act ahead of me actually reporting the difficulty. And I'm absolutely convinced that that wouldn't have occurred had it been a Lancashire County Council project. During my year, Annabelle and I, so far, we've met a huge number of organisations, and I know we're going to meet an awful lot more charities, voluntary groups. It's a fantastic privilege to be with them, sometimes engage in their activities, sometimes just be there for them, to support them, and give them some recognition for what they do. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Paul, Mr. Mayor, that it's a privilege to do that. And I'm obviously very aware of the discussions that are ongoing about local government reorganisation, and that debate is proving such difficult. But it always has been in Lancashire. But I do sincerely hope that whatever comes forward, that it still provides a great mechanism for local involvement and engagement, because that's really what we're all about. So I'll finish by just saying congratulations. It's absolutely fantastic. I wish you all very well, and I wish well all the thousands and thousands of people that give their time, as you do, to try and help communities and try and build a better future. Thank you.
Thank you for these very kind words. I'd very much be absolutely delighted if you would now assist me to unveil the plaque for the new council chamber.
I thought you might want that. I'm getting used to this now. Don't do it too soon.
Just carry on and we'll set it up after. Carry on. Carry on and look at me.
2, 3.
Right, that brings us towards the end of the ceremony. Thank you once again, High Sheriff, for attending. Thank you so much, Mrs. Carter, as well, for attending. And to all our guests for coming this evening, and especially, once again, to all those contractors and local businesses who've supported this chamber. We really do appreciate all the work and support you've given, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. As a token of our thanks, I'd very much like to present you with this ceremonial plate of Safe Ribble.
Oh, absolutely fabulous. Thank you very, very much indeed. That's absolutely great. Absolutely thrilled to bits. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could ask Mrs. Carter just to join me for a moment as well, please. Not a lot of room, I'm sorry. I'd very much like to present you with these flowers as well as a token of our appreciation. Thank you. Members of the Council, if you just excuse me a few moments, I'm just going to escort the High Sheriff so he can continue with his evening, and then we can continue with our business for the meeting. Good evening again. We'll now begin the meeting of full council. Before we start with the domestic arrangements, members may be saddened to learn that it is our interim monitoring officer Howard Norris's final meeting with the authority. Can I thank Howard for his advice and guidance over the last 6 months to me personally and also to the council. Thank you. I'll now start with some domestic arrangements for the meeting. Due to regulations surrounding voting, only those members physically present are able to vote. Please ensure that electronic equipment is either on silent mode or turned off. There are no planned fire alarms, so if it does sound, please leave via the emergency exits, which are behind you. The meeting is being live streamed during open session for members of the public to watch. If you would like to speak, please press your microphone to let me know, and when I invite you to speak, your microphone will turn red, and you only need to touch the option you wish to select. Apologies, I've just read something wrong there. When we come to a vote, a screen will appear on your microphone, and you only need to touch the option you wish to select. Please do not obstruct your mouth to ensure that anyone lip reading can do so. If anyone is having any issues or any accessibility requirements, please do let Democratic Services or the IT department know. Some points on procedure for members. Members asking a question have a maximum of 3 minutes and may ask one supplementary question directly related to the original question for not more than 2 minutes. A member who has spoken once on a motion may not speak again while it is being debated, except in specific circumstances. Individual members of the public will be restricted to speaking for a total of 5 minutes during the whole meeting. Finally, can I please remind members of the Nolan principles appended to the agenda front sheet and ask that we all treat each other with respect and courtesy during the meeting. I'll move to item number 1, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies have been received from Councillor Rainsby, Councillor Ashton, Councillor Forshaw, Councillor Buttery, Councillor Watkinson and Councillor Gabbett.
Thank you. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay, I take that as no. Moving forward to item number 3, minutes of the meeting of the Council held on Wednesday the 16th of July 2025. This item is for decision. Can I please ask the Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, to propose that the minutes be approved? Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. I heard you. That was seconded for by Councillor Aniela Belinsky-Gelder for anyone listening at home. Are there any questions on points of accuracy? Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 13, it says on item 34, it refers to a pond at Farrington, and it has 2 R's in Farrington, and I'm sorry, but Farrington only has 1 R. It is quite a common mistake that's quite often made.
It is indeed. I'm sure that will be amended in the minutes. Thank you. Are there any other points of accuracy from any members? Okay, can we move to the vote, please? This will be the first test of your new buttons. I believe there is a member on Teams indicating they wish to speak. Councillor Rainsbury. I'm hoping our IT team will bring him up.
Oh, is there anybody there? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you, Councillor Rainsbury. Go on.
Yeah, it's just I thought I heard my name mentioned in apologies where I'll just let you know I am attending by Teams from Switzerland.
Thank you. I'll ensure that's recorded in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're now going to move to the vote. Can I just ask for a show of hands, those in favour? It's come on. There we go. It's come on. Let's try now. Thank you. That has been carried. Okay. Moving on to right. Fantastic. We knew there were some teething problems, didn't we? Right, moving on to Mayor's announcements, item number 4. Can I begin by expressing my thanks to everyone who supported me and my consort in our charity skydive in aid of St Catherine's Hospice. It really was an unforgettable experience, and I'm delighted to say we raised over £3,000 for St Catherine's Hospice. Thank you. Mayoral engagements continue to come in really thick and fast, something my Deputy Mayor will also be far too aware of. In fact, in just 4 months, I'm already now nearing 100 engagements. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your continued support during what has been a phenomenally busy but rewarding time. Thank you. It's almost impossible to single out just one highlight. What shines through every event is the community spirit, dedication and kindness of the people across our borough. And it is an absolute privilege to support our community groups in whatever way I can. One particular highlight from August was the Mayoral, which I'm sure many of you have spotted in the Civic Foyer. This creative initiative brought together over 50 brilliantly designed scarecrows from local businesses and groups, and I thank the Bloomers, the Leyland in Bloom team, for designing that as part of the advertisement for that. I was also honoured to visit Whitefield Primary School in Penwitham, who achieved the Opal Platinum Quality Mark, placing them in the top 1% of schools in the entire country for play, which I believe is a truly remarkable achievement. Events such as the Central Village's Family Fun Day, Walmer Bridge Village Fete and the Gregson Green Gala have been wonderful celebrations of local pride, laughter and togetherness, and each one has reminded me of the people who make our borough such a special place to live, and I send a heartfelt thanks to them and to all the other community groups who have put so many events on over the summer months. Another fantastic achievement I'm proud to highlight is the recent Green Flag Award at Farrington Park, national recognition of the high standards, care and dedication that go into maintaining this much-loved community space. To say a few words on this success, I'd now like to invite our Cabinet Member for Environment and Community Safety, Councillor Matthew Farnworth.
Right. Thanks, Mayor. Council, I'd just like to pay a tribute to our Parks and Open Space staff, who all work tirelessly across the borough to make our parks and playgrounds a happy and vibrant place for our residents and visitors. Here in Safe Ribble, I'm proud to announce that we now have 5 green flag parks across the borough. A green flag park is a benchmark international standard for public accessible parks and green spaces in the United Kingdom and all around the world. So in the summer, I'm absolutely over the moon to say that Farrington Park was awarded green flag status. So I'd like to personally thank everyone, including the council staff that's headed by Neil Anderson, who's in the room this evening, the Friends of Farrington Park, our brilliant volunteer groups, and those who enjoy the park on a regular basis for all they do to make sure the park continues to thrive. Without staff like Neil and his team, who make sure our parks look amazing all year round, we simply wouldn't have been able to do things like this, as well as refurbish 17 playgrounds that we've completed across our borough since 2019, which all allow our communities to flourish.
Thank you. I'd like to echo those words and also add my personal thanks to Mike and Carol Otter, who I know spend most weekdays in Farrington Park litter picking and keeping the community a fantastic place. If I can ask everyone just to join me in thanking our parks team and all the officers at the council who've made this happen. Thank you. Finally, I'd like to extend an invitation to everyone to join us at Worden Hall on Saturday, the 1st of November, for a movie masterpieces performed by the Ryland String Quartet by candlelight. Tickets are £20 each and are selling very quickly. There's not many left, so please do book if you do wish to do so by contacting my secretary, Claire. And that is really important to support my charities, St Catherine's Hospice, Miles of Smiles, Teddy's for Loving Care and Sleep. Thank you. Item number 5, urgent decisions. This item is for noting. Can I please ask the Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, to present the report?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this is a regular item on the agenda. You'll know from our past, we don't like taking urgent decisions, and we only take urgent decisions when they are truly urgent and cannot be avoided because of the council's cycle of meetings. I'm pleased to say that since the last full council, there's just been one urgent decision and it's itemised in the agenda. So I'm happy to present that to council.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any members of the council? Are there any questions from any members of the public? Okay, as this item is for noting, we do not need to take a vote. Moving forward to item number 6. This is the Cabinet report on pages 433 to 436 in your to follow pack. This item is for noting. Can I please ask the Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, to present the report of Cabinet on the 17th of September.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my pleasure to present the report of the Cabinet meeting of the 17th of September. It was a very positive meeting with lots to celebrate. We had a very positive quarterly performance review. We refreshed our risk register, which is a really important document. We announced further park improvements at Withy Grove and at Paradise Park in Moss Side. We had the final report of the misogyny working group, and thank you to Councillor Emma Stevens for leading on that. And Councillor Unsworth presented the progress report as we work towards the statutory requirement to start weekly food collections for our residents. With that, I'm happy to propose that to Council.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. I can see there is a question from Councillor Michael Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I thank the Leader for the report from Cabinet? I wanted to speak with regard to the proposed improvements for Paradise Park. And I very much welcome these improvements which are now coming forward. It's nice to see those coming forward. I think it's £226,000 that's been secured from developer contributions that was secured as part of the planning process. So that's welcome. It will make a big improvement both for the former residents of the local area and for the new residents that have moved on to what I forgive me, but I still call the test track development, but Centurion Village to give it its correct name. And in speaking, I think it's also would be remiss of me not to put on record the thanks to those developers, Barrett's in particular and David Wilson, who have maintained an open relationship with local residents, and I chair a meeting with local residents on a regular basis. They still come to those meetings and they still engage and try to sort out any problems that arise for current, former or new residents, which I think is to their credit, and you don't often see that from developers, so credit to them, but also credit to an important group in our area, the Friends of Paradise Park, who have done such tremendous work over a number of years, sometimes in challenging times, and we know some of the problems that have happened in recent times, but I think a lot of credit due to them for the work they've done and continue to do. I welcome the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members wishing to speak? Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? Okay, as this item is for noting, we don't need to take a vote. Moving forward to item number 7, this is the Corporate Performance and Budget Scrutiny Committee. This item is for noting. Can I please ask the Chair, Councillor Pete Pillinger, to present the report of the Corporate Performance and Budget Scrutiny held on the 15th of September.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report is as written in front of you. This scrutiny committee, having overview of various areas of the council's work, is an important part of the council's work. It's working well, I think, and I don't need to say anything further unless there are any questions.
Thank you. Is that report seconded?
Happy to second that report, Mayor, and can I thank Councillor Pillinger for his chairmanship as usual. But also, can I take this opportunity, because thanks were passed from Councillor Sharples to the members of the former Scrutiny Review Group of Building Better Homes and Neighbourhoods. There were 4 elected members on that group, cross-party, and officers that supported that group very well. So it was nice to get that positive praise and nice to see things moving forward. I think we've still got 1 or 2 things to iron out, and been some correspondence since that meeting as well, but appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Are there any questions from any members of the Council? Are there any questions from any members of the public? As this item is for noting, we don't need to take a vote. Moving forward to item number 8, the Standards Committee meeting. This item is for noting. Can I please ask the Chair, Councillor Keith Martin, to present the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my first official chairperson event. The standards. The report reflects the part of the meeting that hasn't been minuted, so the minutes have got to be approved. That, and do want to see the event. It's on YouTube. The report is as it's presented, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. Are there any questions from any members of the Council? Any questions from any members of the public? Okay, that item has been noted. Moving forward to item number 9, the Governance Committee. This item is for noting. In the absence of the Chair, can I please ask Councillor James Gleeson to present the report of the Governance Committee on the 22nd of July and the 9th of September.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I want to extend my thoughts to Councillor Watkinson and Councillor Gabbert, the Governance Chair and Vice Chair, who are currently unwell and speedy recovery on behalf of the Council. And so I present the report to Council for noting. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any members of the Council? Any questions from any members of the public? That item is noted. Moving forward to item number 10. This is the commitment to standards and Nolan principles. This item is for noting. Can I please ask the Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, to present the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members will recall we had a debate at the last full council meeting, specifically about member behaviour and adherence to the Nolan principles. I think it was a good debate held in a reasonable atmosphere, and we did pass a resolution. Parts of that resolution tasked the Chief Executive, because he's not very busy, to go away and do some work around demonstrating to Council how we fulfil the Nolan principles and provide good governance for the people of South Ribble. So I want to extend my thanks to him for taking the time to do it. You will see the report is there, and I think it's a fairly thorough report, and for me demonstrates all the right checks and balances and behaviours that we expect to ensure that this is indeed an exemplary council. One of the things that council resolved at that meeting was to task the leaders of the 3 political groups that exist so far to commit to supporting the work of the Standards Committee and to publicly supporting any decisions that Standards Committee should make. I want to thank the Councillor Martin and his committee for the important work they do, and I'm happy to stand here now in front of the whole council and the wider world to say I will support the work of the Standards Committee. I will publicly support any decisions that they take, and they will have my absolute support in the work that they're trying to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is that report seconded?
That's seconded, Chair.
Thank you. Before I open the report up for the debate, there is a proposal within the report that seeks group leaders to publicly affirm their group's commitment to the Nolan principles. This was agreed to by members at the July Council meeting. I will now call upon each group leader in turn to make any comments they may wish. Councillor Tomlinson.
I think I've probably preempted that, Mr. Mayor, and made my views about member conduct and standards and the work of the Standards Committee absolutely clear.
Thank you. Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of myself and my colleagues in the Conservative group, I wish to give a clear and unreserved commitment that we will at all times adhere to the Council's Code of Conduct and uphold the 7 Nolan principles of public life, which set out the standards for how we need to conduct ourselves and to support the Standards Committee. We recognise that public service is both a responsibility and a privilege, and that the Nolan principles guide us in our work in dealing with colleagues of the Council, officers, and our service to all the residents. We all share a duty to act in the best interest of the people we represent. I therefore confirm our full commitment to conducting our role in a manner that is respectful, transparent, and with the highest standards of integrity, honesty, and accountability.
Thank you. Councillor Howarth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, our group most certainly upholds the Nolan principles and also the decisions of the Standards Committee. And I rather hope that, as the 3 leaders have now just made this commitment, that this is actually retrospective, because the Standards Committee have come up with decisions and have come up with recommendations. To the best of my knowledge and my memory, I'm the only person who's ever stood up in this council chamber and apologised for a mistake that I made when I was referred to the Standards Committee. The Standards Committee didn't have to meet. I realised I'd made that error, and I got up and I apologised, and it was to Councillor Phil Smith, actually, because that's the right and proper thing to do. So hopefully this is retrospective, because I know there are still decisions made by the Standards Committee and recommendations that were made where we are still waiting for those members of this council who just affirmed to this to actually stand up and apologise.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from any members of the council? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank the group leaders for their support in the Standards Committee, and I look forward to meeting with you all on a pleasurable basis.
Are there any other members wishing to speak? Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? Okay, as this item is for noting, we don't need to take a vote. Moving forward to item number 11, the review of the Constitution. This item is for decision. Can I please ask the Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, to present the report?
As all councillors will be aware, the Governance Committee was tasked with the consideration of proposed changes to the Council's constitution and with bringing forward some recommendations for approval. A refresh of the constitution is required for a number of reasons. Our constitution is the key governance document of the Council and needs to adapt and evolve as we all do. It's been reviewed in terms of legislation, in lines of new ways of working, and to reflect changes to staffing and processes within the Council itself. Therefore, I would argue to retain the current constitution is not appropriate. I would like to add my personal thanks and those of my cabinet to the members of the Governance Committee who have worked so diligently to bring us to this point. Members will note that the presentation of the Constitution has been simplified significantly, changing from the current 7-part document down into 3 parts. And again, my thanks to the officers and councillors who've made this possible. The key changes to the Constitution are set out in pages 31 to 34 of your agenda pack. I believe the proposed revised constitution represents a sound and legal operating framework for South Ribble Borough Council. It's important to say that the constitution ought to be a living document, and so, if not meeting the needs of the council, it should be adjusted accordingly. And to that end, I'm aware a constitutional officer working group has been reported to create a report for the committee on a regular basis. It's also important, I've just said that bit, but it's really important to say it's a living document. In addition, it's appropriate that changes that seek to improve both the effectiveness and efficiency of the governance of this council and its meetings should be considered with recommendations whenever and wherever warranted. The recommendations are at paragraphs 2 to 4, page 29 of the agenda pack, to approve the updated constitution at Appendix 1, to note that the Constitution is a dynamic document that can be updated at any time with any significant changes needing to be approved by Council, and to delegate authority to the Deputy Chief Executive and the Monitoring Officer to make any minor amendments to the Constitution should they be needed. With that, I'm happy to propose this report to full Council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. Is that seconded?
I'd like to second it and reserve the right to.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any members of the Council? Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wish to also thank all the officers and members of the Governance Committee for all their hard work in updating the Council's constitution that we are here tonight to discuss. A number of areas have been reviewed and agreed upon by the Governance Committee, but there are 3 areas that require more debate and decision at Council tonight. Page 36 of the report. Item A refers to the Planning Committee and the ability of neighbouring councillors to speak without notice at a Planning Committee. Item B, questions from members, and item C, public participation. For decades, members of this council have had the right to ask questions at council meetings on any matters that concern our residents without notice and openly. That right has been fundamental to scrutiny, transparency and to accountability. And it's not a courtesy if it is the cornership of democratic accountability. The proposals put before us tonight restrict questions to written submission and weakens that tradition. It reduces the ability of councillors to hold this administration to account in real time, and is a deliberate narrowing of the space where elected members can hold decision makers to account on behalf of our residents. Public confidence in local democracy depends on openness and challenge. Residents expect us to be able to raise their concerns directly and to receive answers in public, not in a stage-managed or a pre-scripted format. By removing this opportunity, the role of councillors will be diminished, scrutiny and transparency and accountability lost. Proposal C, to force all questions from the public to be submitted 2 days in advance of a council meeting, stifles spontaneity, shuts down urgent questions and creates yet another barrier between the people and those elected to serve them. The issue is not about procedure. This is about silencing the public by insisting on advance notice. You're saying to residents, you can only hold us to account on our terms, not yours. This is not democracy, and our residents deserve better, and their voice is welcomed, not managed. These changes are not in the spirit of transparency, and we cannot support any erosion of our democracy. To accept these particular changes is to access less democracy. This new chamber should be a place of answers, not avoidance. Our residents expect a council chamber where the elected members and themselves can ask often difficult questions freely, openly and in the moment. I urge all members to reflect on this proposed changes, as a precedent could be set that power is insulated against challenge and where this council no longer serves its residents but those who lead it.
Thank you. Councillor Howarth.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Almost going to echo some of those sentiments. But if we can start off with part 1, pages 1 to 56 of the Constitution, or the proposed new Constitution, where it refers to and explains the purpose of the Constitution, the role of councillors and the rights of citizens. So having embedded that in the opening part of the Constitution, we then go on to try and remove and diminish those rights, both on the Planning Committee and within our council structure. Planning legislation is already weighted against objectors to planning applications. So why is it deemed necessary to reduce the number of people who can speak at a planning committee and then reduce the amount of time that they have to speak? Our residents deserve better than that. They deserve to feel that they are being listened to and they have had the opportunity to put forward their views and their objections and to be taken seriously. To try and diminish that really is a retrograde step and does nothing to improve the impression that our planning committee process and our decision-making process is fair and reasonable. But when we then move on to the proposals to remove the rights of the members of the public and of elected members of the council to ask questions, I was first elected to this council 30 years ago, back in 1995. I know that's hard to believe, given my boyish looks, but it's true. And ever since that day, I can never recall any time when any administration of this council has tried to diminish the rights of the public and tried to remove public participation from this council. It's in our DNA. It hasn't mattered which party has been in control of this council, whether it be the Conservatives, whether it be Labour, whether it be a coalition, whether it be a supply and confidence arrangement. We have always given the right to our residents that they have public participation and they have the right to speak at our meetings. And why? Why now do you want to take that away? Because the best example I can come up with was a scrutiny committee, which I've said this in 2 different meetings now, where we had the sewage pouring out into our rivers and our waterways is a massive issue. And we were lucky enough to have United Utilities and the Environment Agency and the Rivers Trust actually come and give us their time and speak to that committee. And members of the public were allowed to put questions to them, major issue that affects them directly. And it was Alderman Forrest who was there as a member of the public and bemoaned the fact that very few other people had come along. Well, if you implement this now, where you take away the right of the public to ask questions and to speak, and they have to put any questions in writing 2 days beforehand, how do you ask a question of somebody 2 days before you've heard what they've said? It's an absolute and utmost nonsense.
Councillor Howarth, could I ask you to sum up, please? Thank you.
Right, okay. Well, very finally, to remove the right to put questions to Cabinet members directly in Council. Councillor Tomlinson, this is straight out of the Jeff Driver playbook, and you should know better than anybody how it works at the County Council. He set out to shut down opposition, to shut down the right of councillors to challenge him, and you are now setting about and doing the same and going down the same road. And I would urge all members of council to reject this out of hand. It's not broken, there's nothing to fix.
Thank you, Councillor Howarth. Councillor Michael Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, colleagues, we are proud that South Ribble Borough Council is unique. Yes, we don't do things as other councils in Lancashire or nationwide do. We do things in a different way. That's something that we should be proud about. Proud of how we conduct our meetings. Proud of how we defend democracy. And proud that I would permit challenge to whoever is the administration of the day. Councillor David Howarth just set out what I was going to say, that no matter who has run the council, who has been politically in the leadership of the council, whether it's been majority control or some kind of coalition of supplying confidence, whatever it's been, that has always been the same. I've not served for quite as long as Councillor Howarth, only 22 years, but I've been proud to support that principle, whether I've been in control, part of the administration, or in opposition. This evening, Mr Mayor, I speak not just as a councillor representing the residents of South Ribble, but as someone deeply concerned about the direction that our Borough Council is taking. The proposal is to require residents and their elected representatives to give advance notice before they are allowed to ask questions at public meetings. On paper, this may seem like an harmless administrative change. The administration may set out some good reasons for doing so, but let's make no mistake about it. This is not about streamlining. It's not about efficiency. This is about controlling public scrutiny. It's about making it harder for ordinary people to hold their elected representatives to account. Let's not sugarcoat it. This move undermines democracy in South Ribble. We are being told that if members of the public or their elected representatives want to raise an issue, if we want to challenge a decision or to ask a simple question, we must now jump through hoops and file notice ahead of time. Well, that might suit the administration's agenda, but it simply shuts the door on spontaneous, urgent and passionate public engagement. South Ribble belongs to its residents, not just the administration, but to the people who live here, who work here, who pay council tax, who raise families, who care about their communities. And those people, and we, the representatives of those people, should never have to ask permission to be heard. Democracy does not begin and end at the ballot box. It continues in every council meeting, in every decision made on behalf of our community, and in every question asked by the public or their representatives. And when a council, our council, South Ribble, starts to create barriers to those questions, it is taking a step away from transparency and a step closer to silence. That's not what public service is about. It's not what South Ribble stands for. And we should all ask, what is the administration so afraid of? If this council truly stands by its decisions, it should welcome questions, not restrict them. It should encourage scrutiny, not avoid it. This is South Ribble, Mr Mayor, not some unaccountable bureaucracy behind closed doors. We deserve better. The residents deserve better. So tonight, I call on all South Ribble Borough councillors, whether you've served for 2 years or whether you've served for 42 years, to do the right thing. Let's retain the right for residents and their elected representatives to speak freely, to ask questions without prior notice. Show us that you respect everybody's voice, not just when it's convenient, but when it counts. Because when those in power start to make it harder for people to speak up, we as a community and as other opposition councillors will need to speak louder, and we will find a way of doing so. Please don't take this retrograde step. This is not the way that South Ribble does its business, and we can do better. And there's lots of you in the administration that have been here for many years. You know that South Ribble is better than that. Please think again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before I bring anyone else in, I just want to apologise to Councillor Howarth. I got my times wrong. I reminded you at 3 minutes. You did go on for 4, but I'm more than happy to bring you back in if you'd like to add anything else. I do apologise.
Well, thank you. Now you've invited me back. If I could just make another couple of points. Clearly, the governance working group have put a lot of work into this, I think over nearly 2 years now. But there is another working group that's taking place, and that's in Scrutiny. And Scrutiny have a working group to look at how we can increase public participation and increase public engagement. But I find it somewhat bizarre that we have one working group coming up with recommendations to take it away, and we have another working group looking at recommendations as to how we can increase it. And I still maintain that this is a totally retrograde step, and I would once again ask you to just reject it.
Thank you, Councillor Howarth, and apologies once again. Councillor Wesley Roberts.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's not often I rise to say I agree with Councillor Green, but I do. I do think we deserve better. I do think the residents of South Ribble deserve better, but we just disagree respectfully on what is better, what is different. I'd still like to come back to the start and say thank you to everyone who's done lots of work on this, governance committee or officers, and I think I never, I've only been on the council 2 years. They've been on there longer, but I never really understood how entrenched some people's views were on things, how passionate people felt about things, until you start unpicking something that's quite simple on paper, and you kind of go, oh, okay, right, and then we have a really good debate. But it's been well-natured debate when I was in governance as well, and since it's good to see this piece of work come to fruition. I think it is a bit interesting how people are spinning this tonight, which is a bit of a shame in some ways. I think someone said it was a right of councillors to have this. Well, with rights comes responsibilities, and I would say my short 2 years of being here that some councillors in particular have taken advantage of that right and abused it and not looked after, not responsible for their actions. So therefore, it has been, proposed that is changed. Not about restricting involvement in democracy, it's about adding rigour so that when we come to a meeting, someone doesn't stand up and read out 2 sides of A4, no one has any idea or any chance of answering, and then the residents sit there at home and go, they listen to us go, well, sorry, I'm going to have to get back to you in a written response. It's just about preparing properly, and if your question is that important, then it has to wait to full council. It can't just give us a call or get a response on email. Then, sorry, I think someone spoke by a company here, so I'll carry on. If it's that important, then you put a bit of effort into writing it down, and that's my view on it. In terms of, I think that does add efficiency to what we're here, and that's what we're here to do, to serve the people of South Ribble in the most way, in the best way possible. Now, people have missed that councillors will still be entitled to a supplementary that would not have to be written down, and we're not restricting what comes out of people's mouths. Although the question is pre-submitted, they still get time to ask the question, so they can add their thoughts on that if they want to. In terms of the public engagement, it's not about restricting public engagement. What it is about is bringing in line public engagement with member engagement. So otherwise you would end up with the public having more entitled rights than elected members, and I don't think that's fair when we represent people in our areas. So it's about bringing it on par. I do think the Constitution should be an enabler, not a restrictive thing, and I do think it should be a living document. And I think there's things that I'd still like to see included in it. That, for example, the county council have things around carers provision for council members, and I think that really adds around the social mobility piece and get involved in democracy. But I'd just like to sum up by saying I support the measures, and I'm quite happily have a debate with someone now, 6 months' time, 12 months' time about it, and we might disagree, but at least we'll. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Matthew Farnworth.
Thanks, Mayor. I think Councillor Roberts made some really good points there. This is not being done to be obstructive. I'd argue the opposite and say that the changes are proactive and makes things more efficient, and also a better use of our residents' money. Now, as councillors, we owe it to our residents that we represent to have quality debate and raise genuine questions at the most appropriate time. And I'm going to be honest, and since my time on the council, and admittedly it's only been 2 years, I don't think that's been happening. For instance, the other month, a member decided to raise concerns about children's safety in relation to our refuse collectors. It sounded urgent, so surely the better thing would have been to report it there and then, not several weeks later at a full council meeting. As political representatives, we try to be as representative of the population as possible. Many of us, including myself, work full-time, and a lot of us have children at home. And while I do understand my role as a councillor, after a 2 or 3 hour council meeting, to then have to sit through another hour of often solvable questions. Now, I remember one in particular was about the price of a bottle of water at a leisure centre. It does no one any favours, as opposed to maybe the individual councillor asking a question. That's not to mention the considerable cost it has on making senior officers and staff stay on for another hour or two at the end of the night after a long day and long council meeting. Now, I do get the opposition parties will be against it, but for me, it's about the quality of debate. And whilst I've been on the council, far too many questions on the night have been utterly pointless from all sides. As a Cabinet member, I fully expect to be held accountable for my duties, and rightly I should be. But I'd even welcome the odd email from the opposition members to ask about certain things within my portfolio. I'm more than happy to work collaboratively with anyone and provide accurate answers to fellow members and residents, as opposed to trying to wing an answer on the night. I think it's really important that we provide quality answers. And finally, I might want to add that this council was peer reviewed a year or two ago, and these changes have come about as a result of this. There's one or two members on the opposition bench who were also on the executive of other local authorities who brought things like this in, things that were arguably more strict than this. Residents can still speak at council, councillors can still speak at council, and you can still speak at planning committee, far more than you can do at any other council across Lancashire. We also have cabinet meetings that anyone on this council can speak at. So I'm sure on behalf of the whole cabinet, if you write to us, you will get a full response and you will get a full explanation. So I'll be voting in favour, and I hope that others will consider this too.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden Williams.
I'm just looking at these particular points on here. Looking through this constitution, it talks about procedures at council meetings. The council meetings are only held 8 times a year, so the public only have 8 opportunities to come and talk to us in public. I think it's a bit disingenuous of Councillor Howarth to say that nobody can come to a scrutiny meeting and ask a question in advance. It quite clearly states public participation at section 18, ordinary meetings of the council. It says nothing about committee meetings. So people can still come to committee meetings, raise those facts about dirt in rivers whenever we have the Environment Agency and things like that. Also, ways of contacting us have changed. We have iPads in front of us here. People can send us an email 24 hours a day. You don't have to wait another 6 weeks for the next council meeting in November to get an answer. And that's one thing. And also, councillors can talk to us at any time. I was sat under a very rainy gazebo last Saturday, all day, listening to residents. Now, I know a number of us in the room doing that. I personally dedicated myself to talking to my residents at every single large event that has been in Leyland this year. And that is listening to residents and answering their questions and taking on their questions, getting them quality answers. There is nothing worse than being asked a question and go, oh, I don't know. Because I would quite like to know what the answer is to a question when somebody asks it, or somebody asks it in here. I want to hear the answer to the question straight away, rather than somebody taking something away and us not hearing the answer. I would rather be fully prepared and have that answer ready so that we all hear it, not just the person who asked the question. And having that in advance would make a massive difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pete Pillinger.
I've spent more than 40 years of my life chairing meetings of one sort or another in a professional capacity, including synods of the Methodist Church with over 100 members. And I've never been in a setting where a question can be asked of a person with responsibility off the cuff on a detailed matter that needs research to answer it. To expect members of Cabinet to answer questions of detail brought up without advance notice is unreasonable. They just are human beings. And it's I was quite thrilled when I found out that there was this section in our meetings where people could answer questions. Then I found people were answering questions that were unanswerable at the meeting. If you want to ask a question about general policy relating to the development of policy in the remit of a cabinet member, I think that would be reasonable at an on-the-cuff basis. But to ask a question of detail that needs a detailed answer should be done probably by email beforehand, and then an answer can be given at the meeting with intelligence and research. But doing it with the way some of the questions have been asked, I just wondered whether people were doing it to get a YouTube clip that they can put in their political output, because asking people who are human detailed questions at short notice is just not reasonable. What I would say from scrutiny and the overview function of the council, there's two of our committees who deal with scrutiny, and we would welcome questions that relate to the scrutiny of the functions of the cabinet. And if we get those questions, I'm sure my colleague will say the same, we will deal with them seriously, we will ask the questions on behalf of people, we will invite people to meetings, and we will deal with the questions that need dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackie Aldsey.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to apologise for my two sides of A4 words. And I do agree with you. Rigour is the vital word. And a little reminder, when I became leader, I requested that the Nolan principles be included in every pack. And the reason for that was because I had witnessed what I considered inappropriate behaviour in the chamber of long standing. Listening intently to the debate this evening, it's surprising to note the level of discontent expressed as we look to enhance our decision making during full council business meetings. Business meetings is what they are. Former leader of the council, I experienced numerous instances of questions without notice, and which sadly, on occasion, led to questionable statements being posted on social media, statements designed to inflame community tensions and buy some attention. Those statements misrepresented my words and intent and drew spurious conclusions and leave negative impressions of our council and its ability to function effectively. Aside from my own experiences, I think it's worth emphasising that full council is a business meeting, and as such requires us to speak from a position of knowledge and sound evidence base. We serve best when we serve with deliberation and consideration. I believe the 48-hour written notice will improve the quality of responses by allowing officers and cabinet members to prepare accurate, well-informed answers. I believe it will ensure clarity for public and avoid confusion or speculation when mischief is made. Help meetings to run efficiently by enabling proper planning and time management. I also believe that it would prevent unexpected or complex questions from derailing the proceedings. I believe it will protect public trust and ensure that sensitive matters are held and handled responsibly and not used as a means to provoke. And I believe that aligning with best practice across local government provides for professionalism and good governance. I think it's important to recognise providing advance notice does not limit debate, it equips and enhances the quality of that debate. Strengthening responsible and constructive dialogue in the council chamber. Perhaps the underlying and substantive critique of this change is because the net result would discourage sensationalism and political theatre in the chamber, which some seem to favour. But as a fair-minded individual, I fully appreciate that drama, banter and theatre may add to the spectacle, from both public and members alike. But our personal preferences should not be allowed to direct or disrupt the business of this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Margaret Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I haven't prepared a speech this evening. I just wanted to make one or two observations, if I may. Having worked on this task group for the past 18 months to 2 years, I'd like to thank my colleagues first and foremost, because I think the debate between us has been, in the main, a very respectful debate. And we have tried our level best to try to come to a consensus. As you can see from the list of recommendations that we have managed to get to put together. And I'd just like to help Councillor Howarth, if I may, that one of the recommendations that we did all agree, and it was unanimous in the vote, that we still do retain the opportunity at planning for 5 members to speak and at 4 minutes. And I do thank everybody for that, because I do think it is one of the most important places where our members of the local community can come together and express their views. One of the things that has concerned me this evening when I've been listening is that we're not actually focusing on what is actually written down here. If we go to page 213, and I'm sorry about this because there's 2 numbers, you get the big number and the little number, but the big number is 213, which is questions to members from the council, which states that we've got to have our question within the Chief Executive by 5 o'clock on a Monday. I just wondered if there is somewhere, if we do have to go down this, there is some negotiation that could be there. Because at 5 o'clock on a Monday evening, you're not going to get an awful lot of work done. And whether that, because I know group meetings take place on our side at Monday evening at 6 o'clock, and I understand that they are also Labour's 6 o'clock-ish or thereabouts on a Monday. If that could maybe be altered to maybe 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, which would give a little bit of flexibility, wouldn't take an awful lot out of the working day, and it would just help everyone. That's just one point. There is another point. If you go further down the page, the member submitting the question, excuse me, this must be awful. Submitting the question has 3 minutes once the question is put. But if you go further, right to the bottom of the page, it then states that the member may have actually put a supplementary question and they're allowed 1 minute. Now, with the best will in the world, if you speak quick, you're not going to make it, are you? And that is another point I think that we need on procedural matters, take these things into consideration. The other thing is, I understand that it would be 30 minutes. 30 minutes, so you've got three minutes, plus another one at the most. So you're probably going to get about 8 questions. Answers. How long are answers going to take? You know, if somebody gives you a nice question, you could spill that answer out for an awful long time. You know, these are the sort of things procedurally I don't think has been quite gone through into this particular way of looking at it. Also, if we go further on, the members of the council, members of the community coming to council, they're also allowed 3 minutes to ask their question, which is in writing, and to be quite honest, I don't have any particular objection to them having it put into council, but maybe they should be given a bit of flexibility. But if you go back to the bottom of page 218, it then says, following the response, the member of the public may ask 1 supplementary question. This must be related to the original question, but we don't have any time on that. Are they allowed 1 minute, 10 minutes, 2 minutes? I think the point I'm trying to get to, Mr. Mayor, that there are still a number of areas that I think could be, with a bit of work, maybe get to a point where we could all agree. I do have to thank Ms. Bullock, because she has worked tremendously hard on this, and she has guided us, and we've got a long way forward, and we came to a lot of good conclusions. So maybe just a little bit more time from us all would actually help us put this to bed once and for all. And just off the top of my head, I'm just thinking maybe the leader would consider, and I'd hate to say this, just putting it back for another meeting, so that we could, the poor task group could meet again, and maybe we could finally bottom this out and get all these little anomalies sorted out and put to bed once and for all. And then, yes, it will be a living document, that maybe in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, we come along again and say, hey, that's working well, but maybe we just want to tweak this bit. So it's just a thought, Mr. Mr Mayor, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor David Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm sure the leader gets that we have some concerns that perhaps there might be some restriction on opposition holding administration to account to some extent, or the public wouldn't get the full speech. The observation has been made by Councillor Alty that we would like the time to be able to prepare a full response. Response I would give to that is within the document there is also the ability for a member of the council who has been asked something to simply say, I don't know, I'll come back to you. That still exists. It doesn't look really great, it still exists. And I have a horrible feeling that you see that used an awful lot. My big question, and the reason I've stood up here, is I'm not exactly sure where we're going with it. I think I've said that in committee as well. Where are we actually going with this today? Because at the moment we have a motion to pass the Constitution with the commitments that we need to have, things like the financial regular changes that are required, a load of stuff that's been put into there, some tweaks, yes, but some major rewriting of the Constitution. Are we simply going to say, no, we're not going to do that? Or are we going to come to some sort of compromise, either by deferral, or is somebody going to put in an amendment? Because at the moment, we've got one side who is saying, here's your lot, and we've got the other side saying, I don't like it. Just like to know what we're going to do with it.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor David Bollenberg.
Thank you. I was really interested to hear what Councillor Smith had to say. I do think it might be the wrong thing to do, just want to send it back for another meeting. From what I understood and I heard before, part of the changes that will be brought in would be that any minor amendments, and I think adding time limit questions amendment, wrong, but it seems a simple matter of consistency throughout the report, could be handled within that minor amendment structure without having to go back to full consultation. And then any larger changes, which will only really come through testing the new constitution within these walls, you know, through these meetings, could then come back through the substantial amendment route. So I don't think it will be the right thing to do to send it back. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howarth, you've indicated to speak, however. Please go ahead.
Which it was a lot easier previously before we had these. Yeah, it's just that Councillor Hayden Williams suggested that this only applies to full council meetings. I can take you to point 24.21, when Age is scrolling through this. Members of the public may ask questions on notice.
Councillor Howarth, is this a personal clarification on a point relating to yourself?
It's correcting something that was said in response to my speech.
Is it a point of personal clarification in relation to a matter which was stated to yourself?
Yes. It's a case of personal clarification that I was right and he was wrong.
Thank you, Councillor Howarth. Okay, I don't have any further members wishing to speak. I'll bring in Councillor Belinsky-Gelder, who's reserved the right to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I am at risk of repeating a lot of what my own group has said, but I think for me the main thrust of this is that the Constitution, the main thrust of the opposition argument is that the Constitution has been changed so that we can't ask a question. For me, I would argue that the Constitution has been changed to allow for the best answer and a good answer. We were peer-reviewed 3 years ago, as Councillor Farnworth said, and they've suggested lots of things to us, and this was one of the things that they said that no other councils do. They don't just have free questions on the night, and that that more often than not, people have to put questions in writing. It's best practice, according to the LGA, the peer review. This new method that we're going to vote on tonight, if it gets through, will allow for a full and frank answer. I hear comments, people watch this on YouTube, watch it back months later, and they get frustrated that cabinet members can't answer questions, as Councillor Pillinger said, on the spot, detailed planning questions around very specific personal circumstances, which I don't think should be shared in a public setting. It can be answered behind the scenes, and the answer will not change if it's answered here or if a planning officer answers it in a private setting via email or letter. So it's trying to overcome that frustration that residents feel don't get satisfactory answers on the spot. Councillor Pillinger referred to whether the answers are satisfactory. In addition, sometimes we're asked questions which aren't even relevant to South Ribble Borough Council. We're asked questions about grooming gangs, which we have no statutory obligations over. And we're asked questions about questions of things that LCC are responsible for, the police and crime commissioner. And this now affords us an opportunity for residents to find the right answers without even bringing issues to full council. And that's again another issue which was Councillor Roberts mentioned, which was around people getting waiting for a council meeting to ask a question around safety issues, which could have been sent via email on the day after a safety issue had been raised, sorted out the day after. So I just want to finish by saying, as the Deputy Leader for South Ribble Council, I would welcome any resident to contact me at any point. As Hayden said, it's 24/7. Anybody in the whole of South Ribble can email me at any time and ask me a question, and I will make sure that they get a full answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turner, you've indicated to speak. However, unfortunately, this debate has ended. Has just been summed up by Councillor Belinsky-Gelder.
Debate end.
I asked any members who wished to speak prior to the summing up being made. No members indicated to speak. Apologies. You've already spoken. Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak or make any questions? No? Okay. Can we move to the vote, please? Okay, that has been carried. Moving forward to item number 12, South Ribble Annual Report for 2024-2025. Please note the recommendation on this report for this item has been updated. It will now be for noting and not for decision. Can I please ask the Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, to present the report?
Thank you, Mayor. It was my pleasure to present this annual report to a recent Scrutiny committee. I want to thank the authors who brought this report together, particularly those who've decided on the style and the presentation of the report, which I hope everyone will agree is a very user-friendly document that is easy to read. I do want to celebrate some of the things that are hugely positive that this council has achieved in the last 12 months that are itemised in the report. Our household support fund has assisted some of our most vulnerable residents to the tune of over £500,000 in the last 12 months. And I know that's helped over 1,700 families when they've needed it the most. We opened Jubilee Gardens. Jubilee Gardens last week, which again was a fabulous event, and again a real testament to the ambition and vision that this council has shown in recent years. Another great playground refurbishment at Tidygate has recently been opened, and it's interesting to note You'll recall at the last council, and I mean the last administration, we committed to plant a tree for every resident in the borough, around 120,000 trees, and people said, it's not possible, you're being too ambitious, you're trying too hard. And now here we are 6 years later, and we still planted 47,000 trees last year alone in our ambitions to combat climate change and reduce carbon emissions. Our new website achieved a 98% accessibility score, and again, I'm sure that's something Councillor Alty, with her responsibilities, will join me in celebrating. And as evidenced tonight, our transformation of the use of this building continues apace. We've now got Citizens Advice Bureau in this building. We've got the National Health Service in this building. We've got the DWP and the Job Centre in this building. And we're transforming the space in which our own staff work as well. All part of our ambition to be an exemplary council, Mr Mayor. I hope people will agree with me. It's a really positive report with lots to celebrate, and I'm delighted to be able to present it to council tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the council? Councillor David Howarth.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do have just a few comments. The first one being page 338. I was somewhat surprised to open the first page and see Councillor Tomlinson's face, well, I was going to say smiling out at me, a little bit miserable on there. Mainly because, two reasons. This is an annual report of 2024-25, when I believe Councillor Jackie Alty was the leader of the council. And secondly, better looking than you, so a photograph would have been more appropriate. So, just a comment, maybe perhaps it should have been Jackie who was starring in this introduction and not yourself. I can take you to page 341, and there's lots and lots and lots to celebrate in here, and I'm sure every member would be proud of the achievements this council has made, because we all do make a contribution to it. We might not be in the administration, but we do make a contribution, and we are proud of what this council achieves. However, it might be as well just to have some balance, rather than just having a victory parade of all the great things that you've done. Perhaps some balance as to maybe where the council's not done so well and what it has been doing to try and improve it. For example, thank you for the wry smile, actually, about music in the park, because when I envisage legendary acts, it's more sort of Eric Clapton, David Bowie, Oasis. Yeah, he's not me dad. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm not suggesting we get David Bowie on. I'm just saying, if I think of a legendary act. You stop him heckling. Yeah, I've lost it. What I don't think of is Chesney Hawkes, Bewitched, 5-Star, Rosella, whoever that is, and who's booming? And perhaps a bit of balance would have been to say, we've done our best, we've tried really hard, but it's not sustainable and we can't keep it going. But well done for having a go. Page 346. Where we have some achievements there. 42% recycling. Well, that's 58% that we're putting in landfill, one would suspect. And I think that figure is probably going down as opposed to going up. So maybe some balance there as to what we're doing to drive that recycling figure up, and to try and emulate some of the Liberal Democrat councils in this country who've got the highest recycling figures anywhere in the country, would be a better balance. If you go to page 353, I'm being heckled from the other side here. Must be doing well. 68% satisfaction. Well, again, that's 32% of people who aren't satisfied. And I know what you'll say, and I agree with you. People tend to moan when they're not happy, as opposed to congratulate you when they are. However, a balance there would be to show what we've been doing in this last year to increase those figures. And finally, 357. Are we seriously congratulating ourselves and making a virtue out of answering telephones? And we may well have answered 73,385. That's Councillor Turner just phoning a friend. she did submit a question to Councillor Roberts, so maybe he's sending you the answer.
7 weeks to answer.
And she's answered that one. But from the figures we were given at Scrutiny, there were quite a lot of people whose calls weren't being answered. And again, balance would show what we're trying to do to ensure that everybody gets an answer when they pick the phone up, not give up in frustration, because after you've been sent round, press 7 different numbers and listened to Bewitched or Chesney Hawks or whatever on the end of the phone, you just give up. But well done for everything that we are proud of, but some balance will be showing what we're trying to do to improve in the areas where we're not.
Thank you. Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with everything that Councillor Howarth has said tonight, and again, it's just an observation. But first of all, I wish to thank the officers for all their hard work in producing this South Ribble annual report. And although we agree and celebrate many of the priorities that are listed there in this report, it provides a useful summary of the many activities the Council does provide. As Councillor Howarth said, it lacks any benchmarking, comparative analysis, measurable indicators of improvement. For the report to be of any real value, it should go beyond descriptive content and include comparison against prior years' achievements, including clear measures that track progress, improvement statistics, efficiency, quality, financial performance, amongst other things, and community outcomes. The report tends to read as a narrative rather than a success evaluation, and needs to assess impact, track progress and support informed decision making by this council. Goes beyond statutory things that we have to provide, but I just felt as though there was nothing, the figures meant nothing to me when I read it as a councillor, and the members of the public would feel the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak? Councillor Belinsky-Gelder.
I just want to sum up really and maybe be a little bit political. In here it illustrates a vast array of projects. I think for the general public, the South Ribble Council does not have to do everything that's in here. These are political decisions that the administration makes in the interests of the community. We've upgraded our leisure centres. We've introduced social prescribing, much to the hard work of the officers for managing to achieve the funding for that. But the things that the social prescribers manage to achieve and the number of people they help is unbelievable. We've got a sports team. We have wildflowers. We've got 5 green flags now, affordable housing, improvements to 17 play areas, as Councillor Farnworth said before, an extra care scheme with 75 beds for people who aren't well enough to live on their own at home but are too well to be in hospital, and community events as well, which bring the communities together. These are the choices that we make. This strategy, this annual review doesn't have to look like this. And what I want to say is that we always say, let's do it this time. We don't say, let's wait until next time. Let's wait until the next meeting and look at it again. Let's go back to governance. Let's go back to this. We just say, let's do it. We listen to the officers. We trust their advice. They're the experts. And we say, yes, let's do it. And I think, and that's all I want to say. I just want to say how positive it is, and just to thank the group really and the administration for their support in continuing all these extra activities and things that we choose to do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from any members of the public? Is it a personal point of clarity? Oh, of course. Apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I commend you on sticking to the Constitution, and although I'm not very pleased when you try and stop me speaking. I just, to Councillor Walton, I would say all the things you asked for about quality measures, they're provided to the Performance Scrutiny Committee. But that's not what this is. This is an annual report that seeks to bring together a whole raft of information in a way that's easy to read, and people can look through it and actually quite celebrate the good stuff. We'll come on to some of the not so good stuff in a minute. But it's not meant to be a huge document that goes into all the facts and figures behind all the things that we've achieved. All those facts and figures are discussed, and our, cabinet members do respond to questions from the Scrutiny Committee, and but that's the appropriate place for it. You're completely, I think, missing the point on what this document is. And so I want to thank the officers again who brought it together in such a readable fashion. Councillor Howarth, one, you're probably right about my picture. I'm not as attractive as Councillor Alty, but I am currently the leader and I am presenting the report. On music in the park, make a really good point. We really wanted it to work. We tried really hard to make it work, but clearly we couldn't afford David Bowie or anyone else like that. Yes, I know, but we couldn't afford. We simply couldn't. Yep. And the price that artists are charging in the last 5 years have skyrocketed. Our first headline act cost us about half of what our final headline act cost, and I would argue was probably a better headline act. So the cost is astronomical, and the cost of living crisis means people are less likely to pay out for expensive tickets. I do have to say, though, I'm confident that the emerging cultural strategy that Councillor Farnworth is going to bring to us will show a whole series of events that we want to put on in South Ribble that people will want to come to. I've been passed a piece of paper by our very diligent Cabinet Member for the Environment and Street Scene on the recycling figures. They have gone down, and they've gone down actually in many authorities, and it's one of those unintended consequences because we measure the weight of the, not the weight, the percentage. The plastic, a lot of the plastic bottles that go into the blue bins are now half the weight that they used to be. You may have noticed if you buy a bottle of water these days and you try and unscrew the top, the bottle collapses in your grip because they're using less plastic, which is a good thing, but it does drive down the percentages that are recycled. Because we're moving on, and we talked about it in the Cabinet report, we're moving on to food recycling in the next year, so hopefully that will increase the figures again. We remain one of the best performing councils in Lancashire. I think we're second best performing councils in Lancashire on recycling. So much to do, but we ought to celebrate what we are doing. Can't remember any of your other barbed criticisms, but I'm happy to chat. I'm happy to chat to you afterwards. But again, thank you so much to the officers who put this together. I think it's a really good summation of all the great work that we do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak or comment? No. Okay, as this item is for noting, we do not need to take a vote. Moving forward to item number 13, the annual greenhouse gas report and update on key actions. This item is for decision. Can I please ask the Cabinet Member for Environment and Street Scene, Councillor Kath Unsworth, to present the report.
Thank you, Mayor. South Ribble Borough Council aims to achieve carbon net zero by 2030 and is actively working to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from its estate and operations. This report's in two parts. Part 1 shows the total greenhouse gas emissions for 2024 to 25 for the council and its assets. This total was 2,238 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent, marking an 11% decrease from the previous year. The carbon identifies the sources of these emissions and categorises them as scopes 1, 2 and 3. Scope 1 are emissions that are directly under our control. These have risen due to an increase in gas use for heating council buildings and diesel for council vehicles. These should reduce as our leisure centre transition to source heat pumps and solar panels, as well as our fleet decarbonisation strategy that will see some council vehicles replaced by electric alternatives. Scope 2 are emissions resulting from the use of electricity, and the council's decreased electricity across the estate and has signed up for 100% renewable electricity tariff, resulting in zero Scope 2 emissions. Scope 3 are emissions that are under our indirect control, for example, staff coming to work, going on courses, and this report shows an increase, but this is partly due to an improved reporting and higher national conversion figures. This is likely to continue to increase as the reporting gets even more sophisticated. However, we're not required to report on this scope, but being transparent, it helps us to identify any areas for improvement. So even though it may not look good on paper, it does help us to work out where we can improve. Part 2 of the report are borough-wide emissions, and these are South Ribble's total greenhouse gas emissions. They've decreased since 2005, which is the baseline, following the national trend. The latest figures, I think, are 2022. I'm not sure about that. I think that it's not that recent. But the major sources of emissions for our borough are road transport, which with the motorways isn't really surprising, industrial buildings and residential buildings. So while overall we have got a reduction in greenhouse gases, and it's positive news, there's still more that can be done to maintain the downward movement of emissions, and this work will be driven by actions in the Council's climate emergency, air quality and biodiversity action plans. The updates are included in the action plan as Appendix 2. So achieving the Council's climate, air quality and biodiversity goals are not the sole responsibility of any one member or officer, and everyone needs to do their part to implement the actions agreed in the action plans. This report, therefore, details work across the Council. There's a full list of actions in the appendix and a summary in the Council report, but highlights have included a launch of a new single-use plastic reduction project, South Ribble Active Health deliver bikeability programmes to all primary schools, investment and skills continue their business energy grants, wildlife grass cutting continues to be successful, corporate tree planting referred to earlier, the targets have been exceeded, and the Clean Air Crew Schools project supported 28 primary schools to learn about air quality. There's also a list of suggested actions for the coming year in the report. It includes an update on the current climate emergency action plan, introduction of stronger climate, biodiversity and air quality reporting systems for SMT and council reports, launching the HomeWise project for free impartial retrofit advice for South Ribble residents, and supporting communities on climate action, which is a corporate target. A review of our air quality management areas as local air quality continues to improve will be brought to the next council meeting. I'd like to say thank you to the officers, particularly Joe Beeman and Ed Salter, for compiling these reports and for their ongoing work. I'm happy to take any questions and I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Councillor Unsworth, for that very detailed presentation. Is that report seconded?
I'm happy to second that. I just want to add my congratulations to Councillor Unsworth. She's really diligent in this part of the work of the council and she does a really good job. And I'm sure we'd all like to add our thanks to the work that she's done. Thank you, Kath.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. Are there any questions or comments from any members of the Council? Councillor Walton.
The Council originally committed to achieving net zero by 2030. We acknowledge that the actions have been undertaken to try and reach this target and thank the office and members who have produced the report and their ongoing work. On page 393 of the report, many Lancashire councils have also stated their intention to be carbon neutral by 2030. And an assessment report called The Pathway to Net Zero has been commissioned to provide an evidence-based report on Lancashire's current carbon footprint and examines actions needed to meet this commitment by 2030. However, the report warns that net zero emissions are unlikely to be possible any earlier than 2040. This is a significant departure from the Council's ambition and raises questions over the targets for becoming carbon neutral by 2030. So perhaps we need to review the resources and investment and partnership working and prioritise the most impactful actions needed going forward in the future if we are to meet the Council's ambitions by 2030. We'd also like to request some more details if we are going to agree to this report tonight. On page 372, it says we're going to investigate the potential of climate bonds. So could you explain what climate bonds are, and are there anything to do with carbon credits, as this might reflect on, it just says investigate, so what does that mean for the future of this report going forward for?
Thank you. Councillor David Howarth.
Mr Mayor, I would also like to commend Councillor Unsworth for an excellent report. We were more than proud on this side to support the declaration of a climate emergency, and let's make no bones about it, we are now living in a very dangerous world, a world far more dangerous now than it was 12 months ago or 2 years ago. We have one of the most powerful men in the world standing up in front of the United Nations and telling the world that climate change is a con. Thankfully, in this council, we have members and officers who are committed to reaching net zero as quickly as we can. It's always going to have been a big ask, but compare that to the dangerous world we now live in, where the equivalent cabinet member at Lancashire County Council doesn't know if he believes in climate science. He doesn't know. He couldn't answer the question. We've got a leader of Lancashire County Council now who doesn't know whether he is or isn't going to agree to frack Lancashire. We've got a deputy leader of Reform UK saying they're going to frack the whole country if they get elected, and Lancashire being one of the main places. But we have a leader at the County Council who can't answer a straight question. Even when he was asked, does that include the Ribble Valley? It's a dangerous world, and we have to continue doing everything we can to fight climate change and to drive to net zero. And if it means it's 2040 instead of 2030, so be it. But I commend this council for driving forward measures to tackle climate change, and I commend the report and thank you for everything you've done in this area.
Thank you, Councillor Howarth. Councillor Pete Pillinger.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My interest in this area of our planet was started when I lived in Sri Lanka and looked across the Indian Ocean to see the Maldives, which has the highest point in its country, the whole country, at 6 feet above sea level. And with 1.5 foot of sea level rise, they will have no fresh water. We can ignore in this country for a while the effects of climate change. So can people who live in the USA. The person concerned made me wonder whether he had some problem with paracetamol that was causing his mental faculties to not work properly. But the area that we can deal with is, as a council, is our own consumption. We can encourage people in their own homes and their own lifestyles to consider their consumption, their carbon output. The area that's often missed is in our consumption of products that come from other areas of the world, with huge carbon loading from ships that bring them across from China and other places. And I wish to commend our council's policy of buying local. And if we all bought local, we could reduce that consumption loading on our carbon production. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. 2019, we didn't know about COVID. Well, we did a little bit, but we didn't know about the electricity prices going up. We didn't know about wars. We didn't know about invasions. We didn't know that United Utilities were a private company, wanted to charge us so we could go greener, £1 million, just the Moss side thing. So we had a lot of barriers to do it. We planted hundreds of thousands of trees. You all should be proud of that. You all should be done that because we've all had a dib in that, one way or the other. We've done very well. We had an aspirational date. Might not make it. Technology strives, so it might not be as bad as it sounds. But we tried. We tried. Tried to win the elections. You tried to win elections. We tried to win elections. We take pride in the fact that we stood up and we did our bit. If you don't do that, then you're not worth doing it, is it? I'd like to thank former Councillor Tisrington for his insight, and of course other councillors who have gone before us for their inspiration, what we have done so far, and especially for Councillor Unsworth now for her lead in this and confidence in me to lead. And I'd like to thank also those who attend the Climate Emergency. Anyone can turn up. I don't mind people coming and having a listen, having a go. The Youth Council are invited, members of the oppositions attend, and it's good to have a good balance, talk about stuff. We just need to strive forward. What we do makes things cheaper for our residents because we show that you can do other things that will save you money. Using less energy saves you money. Simple as that. As for Councillor Howard's fracking, been involved in fracking. I've been against the county council when the cabinet member turned up and supported reporting of issues that the company did. We had disdain, but we were glad that it stopped. We don't want that starting again. Fracking started actually not too far over here, near Tarleton. So I think we just need to congratulate ourselves for what we've done. It's not a battle, except against the elements. The elements are what we can't control at the moment. Until we can control the weather, we're stuck with what we've got. So congratulations to everyone in this supported what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll invite the Deputy Mayor to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. While we're on this subject, I think it'd be remiss of us not to remember our friend, the late Ken Jones, declared the climate emergency to begin with, set the ball rolling. So, yeah, that's thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak before I invite Councillor Unsworth to answer the questions which have been raised? No? Councillor Unsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I anticipated that the net zero question might be asked. In 2019, the aspirational goal to set net zero to reach net zero by 2030 was set. And we will continue to work towards this target, although it's important to recognise that reducing carbon in our environment is more than just meeting a deadline or hitting a number. For example, an individual might set a goal of losing 3 stones in weight for health reasons. If they only lost 2 stones, the original goal has not been fully achieved. However, there would still be significant health benefits, such as reducing the likelihood of a heart attack, improved blood pressure, less strain on joints and more. Similarly, if the net zero target isn't completely met, the steps taken to reduce greenhouse gas emissions will still lead to an important positive outcome. The actions that we take reduce greenhouse gases have broader impacts beyond carbon reduction alone. These include economic benefits such as green jobs, energy security, social benefits, making it more affordable for people to heat their homes, nature and environmental benefits, improved biodiversity and air quality, health benefits, respiratory health and temperature-related illness. The studies projected that raising all homes to a high energy efficiency standard by 2030 could prevent 650,000 new cases of childhood asthma, which would save the NHS £2 billion. This highlights how energy efficiency and emission reduction strategies can have far-reaching health benefits, especially for vulnerable groups. In addition to human health and well-being, protecting and restoring nature is also a critical aspect of all our efforts and to reduce emissions and achieve a sustainable future. Yes, we are looking at the possibility of bonds, climate bonds, and like other councils, we're carrying out a feasibility study and we'll let you know when there's any outcome to that.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from any members of the public? No? Okay, can we move to the vote, please? Okay, that has been carried. Item number 14, Governance Committee Annual Report. This item is for noting in the absence of the Chair. Can I please ask Councillor James Gleeson to present the report?
The excellent work that the Governance Committee have done over the past year and recognise the hard work and commitment of the officers and the councillors, what they've managed to achieve despite some very heated debates, respectful heated debates, and some very, very long meetings carried on to the. So I present the Governance Report to the Council for note.
Thank you. Is that item seconded? Thank you. Are there any questions from any members of the Council? Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank all the officers and members of the Governance Committee for their time and effort and attention to detail that went into preparing this report. I value the committee's diligence in ensuring that all governance practices remain strong and aligned with best practices and standards. I just wanted to thank everyone. Governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members wishing to speak? Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? As this item is for noting, we don't need to take a vote. Moving forward to item number 15, notice of motion. Can I please ask Councillor Hayden Williams to present and propose his notice of motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors. I want to speak today in proud support of our nation's cadet forces. The ambitious 30 by 30 campaign and a proposal for a dedicated cadets day during Armed Forces Week. The motion in front of you asks the leader to write a letter of support to the campaign to make the Tuesday of Armed Forces Week a dedicated Cadet Forces Day. The background to this is also shown, but I just want to add a few extra words to this in support. The Cadet Forces, Army, Air, Sea and Combined, are among the most impactful youth organisations in this country. They offer more than just military-themed activities, provide young people with structure, purpose and opportunity. They instilled values of discipline, leadership, teamwork and service, qualities that benefit not only the individual cadet, but also the wider community. The 30 by 30 campaign, which aims to increase cadet numbers by 30% by 2030, is a bold and visionary initiative. It recognises the growing demand for youth engagement and the need to offer positive pathways for youth development. As a council, we have a unique opportunity to support this campaign by helping cadet units find meeting spaces, by promoting their work in our schools, and by recognising the adult volunteers that give their time and expertise to mentor the next generation. Here at South Ribble, we are hosting a joint cadet training day with the Sea Cadets and Army Cadets in November this year that's been organised as part of our Armed Forces Covenant work, building on the Gold Award we received earlier this year. I particularly want to thank Joanne Lloyd, one of our Community Development Officers, for the ongoing work she does to support veterans and cadets in the borough. She's been a massive help to me to learning how I can channel my efforts into helping all those connected with the armed forces as this council's champion. This is more about youth development, it's also about remembrance. As we approach the season of remembrance, reflect on the sacrifices made by those who served in conflicts past and present. Cadets play a vital role in these commemorations. They stand in uniform at cenotaphs and memorials, not just as observers, but as active participants in our collective memory. They help ensure that the stories of courage, loss and duty are passed on and not forgotten. This is why I strongly support the proposal for a Cadets Day during Armed Forces Week. This will be a day to celebrate the contribution of cadets, to raise awareness of their work and to encourage more young people to join. But it will also be a chance to honour the adult volunteers that make these programmes possible. I have visited and I'm in contact with the local cadet forces in Leyland and Bamber Bridge, and I'm going to continue visiting them along with Councillor Stevens, and they are fully behind this proposal, as are our MPs that cover the area, Paul Foster and Mayoral. Let us be clear, supporting cadets is not a ceremonial gesture, it's a strategic investment in the future of our communities. It's a way to build resilience, foster civic pride and promote social mobility. And it's a way to ensure that the values that we commemorate during remembrance, which are service, sacrifice and solidarity, are carried forward by the next generation. I urge this council to lend its full support to this motion and support the 30 by 30 campaign and look forward to the establishment of Cadets Day. Let's stand together in recognition of their service and commitment to their future. So the motion is in front of you, and I hope you would all agree to it. And I would ask that Councillor Stevens ask to second this motion.
Thank you. Can I please request Councillor Emma Stevens to second that motion?
Seconded.
Thank you. Councillor Mary Green.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and fellow councillors. I wish to support the establishment of a National Cadet Forces Day. I concur completely with what Councillor Williams has said. For decades, our cadet forces have been shaping the future of young people, instilling in them invaluable life skills, such as discipline, leadership, teamwork and resilience. These young men and women, through their dedication and hard work, contribute not only to the armed forces but to the very fabric of our society. And I, as mayor, when I was mayor in my year, I had many contacts with the local cadets and scouts, and I was so impressed in the work that they did and the dedication. A National Cadet Forces Day would serve as a much needed recognition of their commitment. It would celebrate the cadets who volunteer their time and effort, balancing training with their studies, and the adult mentors who guide them. These individuals form the backbone of a generation of young leaders, and they deserve our gratitude. Moreover, this day would highlight the core values that cadet forces instil: responsibility, respect, and service to the community. These principles will shape tomorrow's leaders and decision makers, ensuring a brighter future for us all. By creating this day, we are not only honouring the cadets and their mentors, but also fostering national pride and unity. It's an opportunity to inspire young people to join the cadet forces and continue the legacy of service. Thank you, and I would like to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak? Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We in the Conservative Group support this notice of motion and for a national campaign to introduce a National Cadet Forces Day. This will highlight the importance to honour the traditions, values and achievements of all our cadet forces, and an opportunity to ensure all cadets are celebrated in a meaningful and organised way to help promote the work and achievements of all the cadet units and their volunteers. Now we all appreciate all the cadet community in South Ribble.
Thank you. Are there any other members wishing to speak? No? Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? No? Okay, can we move to the vote, please? Thank you, that has been carried. For the last time, item number 16, questions to the Leader of the Council. Are there any questions from members of the Council? Councillor Elaine Stringfellow.
Does the Leader agree with me that when a ward councillor calls in a planning application to committee, the said councillor should attend to address the committee?
Councillor Tomlinson, apologies, I should have asked, would you like to answer them one at a time, or would you like... Ria, of course. Councillor George Ria.
Leland L.
Any other... Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a question on behalf of a resident. Leader, I informed the leader.
Of course, do you want to ask it verbally, or have you sent it him?
I've sent it in, but I could verbally if you want me to. You want me to do it now then? Yes. This question was sent to me from a Mr. Derbyshire who was unable to attend tonight. But as I said, I forwarded it to Councillor Thompson. I have been informed by the powers that be that employees of the council and councillors will not have to pay the new car parking charges at the Civic Centre when attending meetings, but ratepayers will. If this is the case, do you agree with me that proves the council is more concerned with employees and councillors' pockets than ratepayers?
Thank you. I'll invite Councillor Tomlinson to answer those and then invite any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The simple answer to Councillor Stringfellow's question is yes. The ability for a ward member to call in a planning application to the committee is a privilege. We have a scheme of delegation which allows officers to make decisions on what are relatively minor planning applications, and that's to improve efficiency and make sure that planning applications are dealt with in a timely manner. That being said, we do allow local members, if they think there's enough local interest, to call in decisions and ask the planning committee to consider an application. That, of course, creates more work for everybody, more time, and stops the decision being taken as quickly as it might be. That being the case, I do believe that if you think it's so important to your residents that you want to call in a planning application, then the least you can do as their elected member is turn up to the planning committee and help them put forward their case. I hope that's useful. Councillor Ria, I think that's a perfect example of a question that shouldn't be asked here, because the future of the Leyland Hotel is not within our power or our remit. I've publicly made my view quite clear, but the decision about the future of the Leyland Hotel will be made by the Home Office, and a really good example of why perhaps some people are frustrated by the way that questions to council leaders and cabinet members is used sometimes. Please send Mr Derbyshire our best. We miss him terribly. Yeah, we miss him. We miss him. Listen, we have to manage our car parks. And any member will know that if you've come in here on business during the day in the recent year or so, to find a place to park is almost impossible. There's plenty of anecdotal evidence that says that people working in the town centre come and park here and stay here all day. So we are going to manage the car park. But what we're not going to do is prevent members of the public who have legitimate business in the council offices from parking there. They will get an hour free, and all our staff and staff at CAB and staff at the DWP and staff at the NHS have been advised that if they think a resident is likely to stay here for more than an hour, they could be given a temporary pass to display their windscreen and will be allowed to stay for however long they need to be. So I don't accept the premise of Mr Derbyshire's question, I'm sorry, but what we are trying to do is manage one of our assets to ensure that it's used to its maximum efficiency.
Thank you. Councillor Rea, is this a supplementary directly related? Thank you.
I sort of appreciate the point that you're saying, and yes, it isn't directly relevant to the council. However, you did provide a quote to the Lancashire Post, which was published on the 20th of August, saying the council was aware of the then recent and the Bell Hotel was going to carefully examine the detail and circumstances of that High Court. There's been further legal developments since then, so seeking to see where the council has got to, if anywhere, and it may be nowhere. But that's the basis of the question. I've tried to keep it short and sweet. So there you go. There's a little bit more context for you.
Councillor Tomlinson.
Thank you. And perhaps the question could have just been reshaped. I did make those comments. We were watching carefully, but that was about the planning function. So we were concerned, as was Epping Forest Council, that the planning process had not been properly followed. Obviously, the High Court ruled that it had, so things are taken out of our hands. There's nowhere for us to go. And I come back to the fact that the long-term future of the hotel rests with the government. I'm really pleased that, let's be honest, half of the hotels that were used for this process have now been closed. Unfortunately, one of them is not ours. I'd love to see it back used as a commercial hotel, but half of the hotels have now been closed. The government, well, I'm not here to answer for them, has made a commitment that they'll all be closed by the end of this Parliament. We'll watch this space.
Thank you. Are there any other members wishing to ask a question of the leader? Are there any members of the public wishing to ask a question of the leader? No? Okay, moving to item number 17, questions to Cabinet members. I'll take these in order. Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Communities and Customers, Councillor Aniela Belinsky-Gelder. Are there any questions from members of the Council? Are there any questions from members of the public? No. Moving forward to the Cabinet Member for Finance and Assets, Councillor Wesley Roberts. And a question indicated from Councillor Angela Turner.
It's funny because we're going back to the solution of cutting down on council by writing to members to ask them questions. I wrote to you 7 weeks ago asking you about when the scale of fees for charging by-election costs to parish and town councils would be published on the website, and I'm still waiting for an answer. So just to continue on that vein, the question really is based on actually when will this council be presented with the scale of fees for recharging by-election costs to parish and town councils for approval. I say full council approval because in accordance with with Representation of Peoples Act, section 36, paragraph 5, it states that such charges need to be approved by council. My understanding is that the returning officer of this council, who has the responsibility of every aspect of running the elections and collecting the expenditure, needs to provide a scale of fees to the Cabinet for discussion and approval, and a decision as to whether or not the Cabinet want to pursue a policy of recharging election costs to parish and town councils. If a Cabinet decision is made to pursue this policy of recharging parish and town councils by-election costs, then this should go to Council for full approval. So, if you can answer my question, when will this Council be presented with a scale of fees recharging by-election costs to parish and town councils? And as to my question, I wrote to you 7 weeks ago and you've still not answered. And I don't think it's funny. Don't disrespect me. When are those scale of fees going to be published on the website? And you just think everything's a joke, don't you?
Councillor Roberts.
Great bit of politicking from Councillor Turner. She's making out that no one has spoken to her, including services and finance, and the funds hasn't been given to the council. I'm more than happy to speak with Councillor Turner. Don't forget. Happy to speak to her, and if we intend to go, officers will advise us, bring something for as appropriate.
Thank you. Councillor Turner, is it a supplementary? Thank you.
I've written a question to you 7 weeks ago. I got a holding response the next day, still not had an answer. The reason why this is important is because we've just passed constitutional changes where the emphasis has been on you can write to a cabinet member and they'll respond to you. You don't need to ask the question in council. I've done that and you've failed to deliver on that.
Councillor Roberts.
Councillor Turner thinks I failed. I don't think I failed. What I would say is, he has emailed. Officers have been working really diligently in the background. Councillor Turner wants to know how that work's going, and I'm more than happy to take a phone call. I don't think in the past 7 weeks there's been a attempt. I think she has sat on it, make a point. Point taken.
Thank you. Councillor Michael Green. Councillor Turner. Councillor Turner, you've indicated to speak. Is this to raise a point of personal clarity? Because you've asked one supplementary question. Councillor Michael Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Roberts, at the last council meeting, I asked you a question about the proposal to carry out some changes to Nixon Lane Road, and particularly to the path going through it, and sought your assurance that any decision will be taken in a public forum so that we can ensure transparency to restore some trust amongst the community, that decisions were going to be made in the right and proper way. You said you'd take that away and you'd also keep me in the loop and inform me as and when any decision is about to be made. I haven't heard anything subsequently. I'm just wondering if whereabouts we are in terms of decision making, in terms of timing, when that's likely to be considered, and if you've taken up the position that the decision should be taken in a public meeting rather than being.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I actually appreciate the respectful nature of the question. I think what I committed to prior notice of how the decision was made. Since the last council meeting, your Parks has got Farnworth, and my understanding more that going around through the consultation was made, you'll begin prior notice.
Thank you. Councillor David Howarth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I likewise asked a question at the last full council meeting, where the cabinet member, yourself, Councillor Roberts, committed to undertaking a piece of work looking into a by-election recharge policy. How far are you on with that piece of work? When can we expect to see it? And just one final question. What is it you want to be when you grow up?
Councillor Roberts.
Nolan.
Before we continue with the rest of the meeting, can I please ask all councillors to please be respectful? Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Kind of forgot the question at the end. Work is being undertaken. What do you want me to do, Councillor Smith? Is it not loud enough, or maybe if you told the mayor? Then
if you have a seat, just 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Can we just turn the volume up, please? Thank you.
Is that better, or am I too quiet? Okay, great. I'm glad we've got through. I won't start again. I'll just say that work is being undertaken by the relevant officers and will be brought forward required. In terms of growing up, I will have to rise to the question because I have to stood up. I'm 5'11". I'm doing what I'm really proud in, and I really enjoy the work I do as a councillor. And you know what? I think a lot of people in this chamber are better than that, and I expect members to be better. And I think we owe it to our residents. Well,
Thank you. Just to support members, we're nearly 2.5 hours into the meeting and it's just been indicated people couldn't hear properly. I'm assuming people could hear the rest of the meeting. If not, please do speak to Democratic Services who can offer appropriate accessibility support for future meetings. Councillor Howarth.
Well, you've just answered a question by saying you'll bring it forward as and when it's necessary. It's necessary now. By-elections are already taking place. Samlesbury Parish Council either has or is in the process of having a by-election. You've sent an invoice out 10 months after a by-election that was held in Penwitham, and you can't produce a list of fees and charges. So do you not think there might be some urgency to this?
Councillor Roberts.
The Mayor, I've been on this council for a lot less time than others, and if others had thought that we should have had this process in place before, maybe they could have just. In terms of the Salisbury by-election, I'm aware that Democratic Services have voted properly, and in terms of referenced invoice, that could have all been avoided ultimately if the town council decided to put one on without an election. Chose not to.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any members of the public? No. Moving forward to the Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Social Justice, Councillor Jackie Alty. Are there any questions from members of the Council? Are there any questions from members of the public? No. Moving forward for the Cabinet Member Planning and Licensing, Councillor Colin Sharples. Are there any questions from any members of the Council? No. Any members of the public? No. Moving forward to the Cabinet Member for Parks, Events and Culture, Councillor Matthew Farnworth. Are there any questions from Councillor Michael Green?
Thanks, Mayor. Can I thank Councillor Roberts for his earlier answer, but in respect to the portfolio responsibility transferring to yourself, Councillor Farnworth, can I ask you the same question then? And I'll remind you of the question at the last full council meeting. There had been an element of lack of trust from the community, rightly or wrongly, towards this council because they didn't think it had got started off in the right way. Trying to restore that trust, I just suggested a sensible way of making a decision on something which could have potential advantages but is extremely controversial within the local community. An appropriate way might be for the relevant Cabinet Member, then Councillor Roberts, now yourself, to make that decision in a public meeting, i.e. at a Cabinet meeting or full council. Just wondering whether or not you've had opportunity to exercise your mind as to whether you intend to do that or if you intend to take the decision in a more private setting, which I don't think is the best way. And also if you a reassurance from yourself that you could keep me in the loop, please, in terms of decision making when decisions and the method of making those decisions is likely to be made as Councillor Roberts had taken.
Thank you. Councillor Farnworth.
Thank you, Councillor Green, for the question. In terms of Nixon Woods, a decision has not been made yet. As Councillor Roberts alluded to, we went to a public consultation that ended a few weeks ago. Our staff have been looking at the consultation and we've done a sort of an in-detailed of analysis of that, so I'm hopeful over the next few weeks, we can sort of break that down. In terms of a lack of trust, I mean, it might be a conversation, for me and you to have. Certainly, I'm fully confident that our officers have done a due and diligent job of this. So I think I'd appreciate a conversation with you in terms of why you think there has been a lack of trust on the issue, and I'll certainly work. More than happy to work alongside you in terms of whether residents have got any concerns and how we can reach some sort of agreement on that.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to ask a question? Any members of the public? No. Moving forward to the Cabinet Member for Leisure, Health and Wellbeing, Councillor Claire Hunter. Are there any questions from any members of the Council? Councillor Michael Green.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillor Hunter, as you'll be aware, this is a worldwide issue, but it obviously comes down to South Ribble. So the American President Trump, as you'll be aware, 2 days ago made a very public link between paracetamol and autism in babies. Scientists around the world have hit back at the claim which has been made, and experts have said there is a strong evidence base that the painkiller paracetamol is safe to use whilst pregnant. Similarly, the US Secretary of State for Health, Mr. Kennedy, has made unsubstantiated links to vaccines. Now, our Secretary of State in the UK, Wes Streeting, has urged people to listen to British doctors, British scientists and our NHS. Disappointingly though, you may have seen that the leader of Reform UK has today refused to denounce the claim made by President Trump of links to autism, despite there being no scientific evidence of any weight which actually supports those claims being made. You'll also be aware his party similarly recently gave the stage at their party conference to vaccine conspiracy theorists, which is of deep concern. Would you agree with me that conspiracy theory nonsense, and I don't mince my words in that, is both irresponsible and dangerous? It will create a fear, and it already is doing. I've had residents in the local area asking me about this very issue. It will create fear and anxiety amongst parents and pregnant women who will suffer unnecessary pain by believing it, or worry about the effects potentially for their babies down the line. This is a serious issue and should be dealt with in a serious, responsible manner. What can South Ribble further do to signpost local residents to appropriate advice if we are approached, and make sure that that advice is given to them in a sensible way? Thank you.
Councillor Hunter.
I totally agree with you. I'm not going to get too political on who and what and when and who said what. But I would prefer personally to listen to medical professionals. I would prefer to listen to our medical professionals. I think we need to put out a bit of myth busting about this. It is basically, well, that sounds this, I could answer it a lot worse than what I'm going to do. So basically, I and everybody out there, I think, should listen to the medical professionals and not somebody who's untrained and is not a medical professional.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? Any questions from members of the public? No. And the final Cabinet Member for Environment and Street Scene, Councillor Kath Unsworth. Any questions from members of the Council? Any questions from members of the public? No. Fantastic. That concludes the meeting. The next meeting will be Wednesday, the 19th of November 2025. I declare this meeting closed.